Yeah, I come from men that stand. I'm in the field and you just sit in the stands. Take that bass out your voice. If you ain't got no gun in your hand, I do what I want. And you don't even do what you can, you do what you told. I got no love for my foes that can mimic my delivery and copy my prose. But what they can't comprehend is how I stick to this code. It's either in you or not. It's not the kicks and the clothes. They ain't cut from the same cloth, can't come from the same loom, fit in similar shapes or even sit in the same room. Confusing authenticity with part of the costume. I'm teaching gifted children, you can't come in this classroom.
Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Welcome back to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. Geechee, Cherie, with the smile on her face. How you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. It's been a long day. I got a lot on my mind. But what did Kirk Franklin say? Say, you look so much better when you smile. So I'm just trying to,
Kurt,
give everybody a little joy.
Kurt Franklin.
I smile, even though I'm in it, but I smile. I know God is working, so I smile. Yeah, isn't that that's his song?
Kurt Franklin, I ain't never heard. Oh, he a producer anyway, so he don't meet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the choir was doing all the real work. He just conducting or whatever. But
that's like saying that's Diddy's song though. Because Kurt Franklin.
I mean, to give Kurt, because we could talk about that for the first time. I know you got other stuff, but I'm saying to give Kirk Franklin his credit, I think he has more musicality and more say in arrangements than Diddy, especially from that documentary. You find out he ain't know nothing really music wise.
Oh, I ain't see the documentary, but let's stop for a second. Welcome to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. A Black radical politics conversation from some folks at CNB, where we deliver this on Black Liberation Media, a network with a whole bunch of shows that you should probably check out when you get a chance. Most of y'all are politicized, so y'all probably don't need none of this analysis. But if you're not, welcome in. If you know somebody who would love to hear some radical politics or some conversations on the left about multiple topics, hit the link, share the link, and tell people to come on in. But back to this crazy ass statement.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, so people have always said this about Diddy, is most of his stuff is samples, and then he's not a good rapper at all. People gave him the credit of being a decent dancer, but it's like you're not an elite dancer. You got a little bit of rhythm. But right. Basically, even although, obviously the focus of the documentary on Netflix focuses on, the making of him being the monster that he is or whatever, and his acts against other people, it also called out his talentlessness and how he was always overcompensating for his lack of talent. How he was jealous of Tupac because Tupac was more charismatic and Tupac could actually rap and all these other things. Didn't like him and Tupac being Biggie being close to Tupac. And then you had somebody that wrote.
Wait, this in a documentary?
Yeah. They talk about, his involvement with, setting up of Tupac as well and Biggie. But
wait, where they talk about this at on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I think there's a little bit of.
Okay. 50 Cent made it, but I mean, it is interesting stuff. I mean, because you hear the guy that they say, Pop Tupac, talk about the money that was offered by Diddy, so it was interesting, but yeah, a good rapper implies that he was actually a rapper when he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't. So it talked about, there's this one part that everybody thinks is so funny, and I thought it was hilarious too, because they have one of the main writers of Diddy talk about how he would put all this thought and emotion into writing stuff, and then Diddy would say, see my cry, see this, and kind of just made fun of him sounding like, like a nerd trying to be cool. So I don't think, I mean, not to say Kirk Franklin is, this, that, other, but I think he got a little bit more musicality, because everybody that worked with him said it would take Diddy so long just to do a verse that somebody else wrote for him, because he just struggled with even finding the actual rhythm or emotion behind the words, so it just really, it crapped on his actual musicality, which which, like I said, I will say Kirk Franklin's is a little bit more on point than that. You know, I mean, he's not even Kirk Franklin. Some of his stuff is original. I know some stuff he remade, but it's like you at least have some original songs from him. So I don't know.
Well, I guess because I didn't know what you was talking about. Yeah, Diddy wasn't none of that. He was just kind of like he is or whatever. I don't know. The person behind it getting all the attention, right? Like, you know how people are in spaces and everybody else got the talents and the skills, and they're the one who getting all the credit. And so that's how Diddy always was. From my, I don't know. He never produced like music, make beats that I know of, and he actually never rapped. All his rappers wrote for him, or some of them wrote for him, and all the other stuff never act. But I said all that to say I don't remember Kurt Franklin doing anything other than doing what Diddy did, have a vocal over that. I don't think Kurt music. Maybe I don't know. I don't think he produced. He sure as hell can't sing.
Yeah, he can't sing.
So I think, yeah,
they might be equal. I have to do a deep dive on that. I don't know how much, you know, lyrically or, you know, music wise he's contributed. He's always made it seem like he's doing a little bit more, but I don't know how much of it, you know, is. So I have to look into that part. But yeah, that documentary, yeah, it's quite interesting. I think, you know, you really looking at it through a political lens. It's like you really see kind of like capitalism and how it works in full effect for like how a person can, you know, it's the same thing we think about ownership and people that, you know, run a corporation or a company or any business. It's just like everybody else is doing all the work and you get all the money. And it shows, you know, like how nobody around him was able to like reap the profits of the actual work that they were doing. They talk about how Craig Mack literally was like living with his wife's parents, and he is like nominated for a Grammy, you know, #1 song on the charts, and he asked Diddy for some money. Puff give him like $100 out of a stack of thousands. And so it's just like, but that's literally capitalism. It's like literally the workers are like, can I just have something, God darn it? He's like, you know, so I thought, you know, from that perspective, it was really interesting. Yeah, I don't know if you had anything to say to that.
Nah, I think that comparison was interesting, but I guess yeah, I actually didn't know it was a serious thing that 50 did a documentary. So I don't, like, I just saw something on social media. You know how you see things passing, and I see Marlon and 50 Cent supposed to be interacting with something, but I don't know what's going on. And I don't know if it's real because I'm not gonna see if it's real. So I actually didn't know there was actually a real documentary.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's 4 parts. It came out last week, I think. I watched.
And when they say 50 did it, 50 put the money behind it, 50 developed, like what? Like,
I mean, you know, it's the whole role of the producer. I know he's one of many producers. I think there's an actual sister that really did more of the investigation and like making it a full story. You know,
I said investigation.
Well, like lead.
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm just saying, like we in an environment where we niggas investigating Diddy's life and story, and it's like that's what we're focused on right now. Not us, but like that's what did you go. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, I think even, you know, with it, I think it does call out a lot of the contradictions of the system, as we know, you know, even when it comes to like the way that they interview 2 jurors, and both of the jurors, you can like hear their bias against women in their stuff and their bias for Diddy. Like there's this one sister who's just like, who's literally like blushing the whole interview. She's like, yeah, you know, I would watch Making the Band, and he would do this head nod thing. He was doing that same head nod in court. And it's just like, you know.
Wait. See, so the documentary has people who were on the jury, and they're damn. Okay. So maybe it's like a documentary that again 50 produced, but then there's, I guess, there goes the political thing in it, or the analysis.
I mean, I think you could still see it, you know, obviously for his intentions. You know, 50 didn't have no real base founded. I mean, you know, he's misogynist, you know, colors himself, but it's just like, but it's, you know, when it comes to, you know, the actual documentary itself, I do think it points out a lot of the the flaws. It was only 2 jurors that they got, but those 2 jurors made you kind of seem like, oh my goodness.
Oh my God. Y'all listen, y'all just blow my mind. Now Lorick saying it's a series.
It's 4 episodes and it's 4, so each one is 4 hours.
So
I mean,
okay,
so each one is 1 hour, so it's 4 hours altogether. My apologies.
So whenever you say the contradiction, so you and Leah see that. So I thought the jury can't know anything about the person that they're sitting on the jury for, right?
And that's the thing. It didn't do most of them knew kind of who he was. They probably said, "Oh, they're not a fan," but
and they already had an opinion, probably.
Already had an opinion, and then they didn't even sequest them. Like, you know how even with the OJ trial, they had them all stay in one hotel and not, you know, be watching TV or something. They didn't do any of that. With they were going back home every day, getting back on the train on the highway, being with their family, hearing their family's opinions on stuff, all of that, and still doing the jury duty. So they didn't do any of the extra stuff when it comes to the, you know, that people would typically do with the famous person, you know, with the jury. And then even the other guy who wasn't impressed by his fame, you know, just kind of had, you could tell he had like a very maybe culturally seemed like an older Indian guy, but he was just very not able to understand the case that you know, that they were making as far as telling the story of Diddy and Cassie, because it was all like, oh, well, she kept going back, even though they played the video of her getting beat up when she tried to leave, it was always, well, why would she keep going back? Like, it seemed like she wanted it, and like, you know, like saying that on the documentary. So it's just like, you know, it was just pretty bad to see kind of all of that. But I mean, they, like I said, it focused on his wrongdoings financially, you know, his upbringing, you know, the abuse he might have suffered from as a child, you know, his mom's involvement in that, his lack of relationship with his dad, and then from his first rape in the 90s before he was like really big, and the woman that, you know, said that she was drugged, and he started playing videos of him, you know, and doing stuff to her at parties and stuff. And all this was even before he created Bad Boy. This was just when he was under Andre Harrell. But yeah, so you see the first person that ever accused him of rape, up until like, you know, the numerous stories of like, you know, his abuse of men and women, you know, so it was really interesting.
So I didn't know all that. But 2 things I'm thinking, like, as we think that when this thing happened, or this thing happens in front of a Netflix audience, we like, oh, there's contradictions of the system, and you can kind of explore, and you can highlight the contradictions of the system to maybe politicize some people. And the majority of the people that even watch such a thing are kind of like starstruck the same way as the jury person. So it's like, they're not even gonna hear you. All you sound like is some suckers who talking that whatever. They just trying to take a black man down. It's like, you're not gonna even penetrate the audience to do that. And then that's going from a political thought, and then on a social entertainment, media analysis, clarity, for anybody that think 50 Cent, obviously that boy Diddy's trash, right? But for anybody who thinks 50 Cent's not trash, 50 Cent will be posted as the person who is telling it all and whatever. And if there are radical people, they will listen and be like, oh, see, 50 Cent exposing a misogynist or a patriarch, like 50 Cent's doing that. But the reality is 50 Cent is that also, because if he knew all this shit beforehand, why the fuck you gonna wait till this thing happened to protect that woman? So this is, anyway, I don't know what you're about to say, but go ahead.
My bad. Yeah, I was just saying, not even that. It's like he's said, you know, out and done outwardly misogynist stuff. The same person who like released a sex tape of like Tierra Marie that didn't even
want 50? Who 50?
Yeah. Like, so it's just like,
wow, yeah.
So it's one of those things. But I think most people, especially people that, you know, like I said, radical to progressive, they're calling out even that contradiction of like, because even with the way he behaves himself on social media now, it's like you're making fun of the victims that were in your, like he still is making fun of Lil Rod, who's one of the male victims, of 50 Cent. And it's like, so you're still making fun of actual victims. So it's like, so I mean, I've been seeing him get called out for his contradictions on because it's like, you're not doing this because you know, really want to defend or protect women or anybody or victims. Like, you are doing this just because, you know, you don't like a person or whatever. I mean, and then like
no. He's doing it to get a bag.
In his bag, always. Yeah. I mean, it's always the almighty God at the end of the day. But it's just like, if I can get a bag and punch this person down that I don't like. And I think that's kind of what Marlon was saying, but I think it came across like Marlon wasn't putting the victims in the actual center of the story. Like, he's just like, oh, you kicking him while he's down and stuff, and everybody's just kind of like, why are you it seems like you're like you know, sticking up for Diddy at this point, not actually thinking about the actual, you know, victims that were displayed in this piece of work. But I mean, I think, you know, I can see the politics, but I think for me, I like to will understand the stories of, like, you know, of power and see how people get away, and just the way people will cover up for this man, because it replays itself in so many different spheres of our lives, whether it could be a superstar, it could be, you know, the person that's the leader of your church, it could be the leader of, you know, your mutual aid group, or whatever you want to call it. People will, you know, protect the person who they believe is in power, or the idea that they've created to themselves about the person that is in charge. So I think, I don't know. I think I watch those things, and I'm thinking about those things as well, not even necessarily how I can teach or call out the contradiction, because I know a lot of people are just like, you know, looking at it as fun and like, you know, and they don't, you know, some people don't take it as seriously and stuff, and they just look at it as some mess, some drama, whatever. But I do think it's interesting when you just think about power, you know, it just all comes back to power and protection of power, you know, which is capitalism, that's imperialism, that's so many things, you know. So yeah.
No, that's a dope analysis, and I think I want to clip that. You clip that and share that all over the social media. That's what's up. So before we keep talking, it's about 6:15. We won't get to the main conversation today. We got some hot topics, I guess, or a topic that's probably came up in multiple spaces all over the times. There's people in hood communists, Black Agenda Report, and all the other comrades probably wrote about these kind of topics. But maybe Cherie, you would be so kind to no, actually, we're not gonna be so kind first. We're gonna take a little break so we can catch a wind. I wish it was a longer break so I can go use the bathroom, but I'll be right back.
I'm throwing copper at the coppers, but I'm shaking like Morocco. Say my prayers with the pistol, serve the sinners with the chopper. All my buddies got it from scratch. My house had Betty Crocker. His mama owned D. He ain't even get no shot up. Profit is invisible. Profit come from product. He thinking buffet. He can't comprehend no potluck. God bless the child with his own powder to rock.
Welcome back. Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, episode 39. Geechee, Cherie Danielle. So, you want to talk about what we're talking about today? There's a topic.
I guess the topic of emotional labor I've been seeing a lot, whether it be on the web, whether it be internally, you know, in organizing work. I see people talk about wait, where are we? Oh, you just I was like, what?
Stay focused on the goal, Shaq.
I like to look at myself. I'm like, I can't see myself now. But emotional labor, and you see it used in like a very, you know, I think it can be used as a tool to really unpack a lot of things. Instead, I feel like it is a word that people use to kind of just like tap out in a sense. But I think overall, I read this article that, yeah, like Geechee said, I mean, there's probably other people that have written more in depth about it, but I read this article that was titled, I was just looking at it, I'm sorry. It was titled Emotional Labor, sorry, give me 1 second. Emotional labor, social movements, and being a bad feminist. And so it was written in that framing, but I felt like as I went through the article, and it's a short article, and Geechee can put the link you know, in the chat or whatever, but I just thought it was interesting because I guess I've heard about emotional labor, but I've never really heard somebody talk about or define what it is when they're talking about it. I know, and then I looked it up, and it says emotional labor is managing your feelings to meet a job or relationship expectations. Like that's really the emotional labor. And a lot of times I feel like it's framed in the mainstream as like, you know, Black women, Black people in general, produce a lot of emotional labor at work where they can't be honest about some of their things or how they really feel. About some of the things that they really feel because they, you know, are trying to keep a job and they, you know, can't be honest about true things that they experience and go through. So they're always regulating their emotions, which then becomes emotional labor. And so so with this article, it kind of explored, you know, women who, you know, are identify themselves as feminists and kind of the overall contradictions of being a feminist sometimes, and like the idea of being a bad feminist. And I think that's what we kind of run into when it comes to emotional labor in movement work. I feel like we all kind of come in with particular ideologies, and when we're trying to work amongst each other, it's not just the ideology being challenged, but certain things that you feel like you have to do, you feel like are in contradictory to like the ideology that you believe you have. And I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of dialectical materialism the more you think about it, because we're always thinking about the contradictions of capitalism, right? Like, yeah, I'm a socialist, but, you know, I drive a car that pollutes the air, and I'm on YouTube that probably gives money to genocide and all these different things. But we never talk about the contradictions of some of our ideologies that we kind of have to deal with when we're doing this work. And one of the examples that they gave, and I'll let Geechee speak in a moment, one of the examples that they gave is like somebody could be a feminist and be all for women having the right to choose, but have a contradiction of like feeling bad about their own abortion and feeling like they can't really voice that, because then what am I telling women? And I'm telling women then that, you know, that the people against abortion are now correct because I kind of have emotions and feelings about my abortion that I'm afraid to share. And so you end up policing that and kind of keeping that shoved down, just all in the name of not being considered a bad feminist, instead of working through that actual contradiction of like, yeah, I might have had an abortion and I sometimes mourn the child that I got aborted or whatever. And that's a real thing. But I still also believe that women have the right to choose whether they want this or not. And but instead of doing that, it's like you kind of end up shoving those things down because you don't want to actually struggle with that. So I think, yeah. So I think, yeah, that you can add to that, but I'll yield there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think that's very illustrative. And so I've been hearing this thing a lot actually, but when I was in like sales world as a district manager or in retail, I don't think I ever heard the word, and I only heard the word as I came into like movement spaces and whatever. And I guess but it seemed like the word was birthed out of, again, like a capitalist like leaning and a struggle against the capitalist leaning for people to try to advocate for either more resources to consider like the emotional labor of a job. But the other thing is like they have to give that labor because of the fear of responding or reacting a particular way to the person in power, because the person in power would, you know, police them or they would lose their job or their resources, whatever. So like as the term is kind of floating around now, and I don't hear it in the labor spaces, but in the nonprofit world and in the revolutionary world, the healing spaces, like I would be honest, like until recently, I don't think I know what it actually ever meant. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, because the way I've heard it used is normally like, kind of like what they were saying in the article, like I'm in a political space where I'm trying to organize people. And if somebody has a belief about something, I don't want to do the labor to teach them something that they don't know.
Yeah.
And specific topics, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's how it sometimes people may use it, but I think when people actually dig into what it means, I think it could lead to like actual vulnerability and honesty in the organizing space. Because I think sometimes what happens is it's okay, so I'm a capitalist, I mean not a capitalist, I'm a socialist, and I don't eat meat, right? I'm not super big on a lot of these holidays, right? But 2 weeks ago, I dropped off turkeys to everybody for Thanksgiving. One could say that it's a level of emotional labor, in a sense, for me to smile in people's faces and give them turkeys, even though I don't think turkey is necessarily nourishing for their bodies, and I don't really care too much for Thanksgiving or whatever. I could be like, hey, it's becoming emotionally laboring now for me to go around, knock on doors and smile and, and do this thing that I don't in my heart believe in. I think it may be a little bit contradictory to like what I believe as vegan or what I believe as a person that has, a kind of an anti-European holidays ideology or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I could say that is emotional labor. But I think with that, if you're in a movement space, you should be able to actually struggle and be honest about that contradiction, which I feel like me and everybody else who are delivering the turkeys, we still were talking amongst each other of like, about kind of the contradictions. And it wasn't like we weren't able to be honest. We just understood we're doing a thing for a bigger purpose, but it wasn't like we're shielding our emotions completely. We're still able to talk about the honesty of like about how uncomfortable it is. And I think some people who just tap out and say, I don't want to deal with the emotional labor. The emotional labor is you pretending that the issue isn't there and being like, you got to just smile through it. And I feel like that's what people think that it is asked of them, even in movement space. We think we're supposed to just smile through stuff and not talk about the contradictions. But in actual movement spaces, you should be able to talk through your feelings about it and still, be able to work with people and work for those greater purpose. So I feel like, let's say we're talking about a feminist working with somebody else that's a comrade to understand something about patriarchy. It could be a sense of like, okay, it's emotional labor for me to act like, the things or the questions this person may be asking don't hurt my feelings or make me feel like I'm unseen, as a woman because somebody's asking me these questions. And I feel like, that could hurt. But and having to act like that isn't hurt is the emotional labor. But I feel like if you get down to it, you should be in a place where you're able to actually be honest about your emotions with that person of like, hey, like I have never had to explain why I think this is wrong to someone. And it's actually hurting me to do this, but I'm going to still explain or do the work to explain it. But I'm going to be honest about my frustration. I feel like you or however I feel should, or my desire to wish that like that I didn't have to do this, but I do. I think you get what I'm saying. Like I think that's the dishonesty is what makes it emotional labor. But I feel like we should be in a space in organizing where we're honest about the feelings and the hardships of some of the conversations that we have to have. But I think saying you just don't want to have the conversation isn't necessarily the escape from emotional labor. That you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. It actually entrenches emotional labor because now you have to do the labor to do that, and that's emotional labor. Yeah. So I want to what you call it, mushroom back off your veggie back off your turkey. so I was following you and I was going in. I was like, oh, and I was about to respond, and then I like started to deal with this conversation I had with Baba Wakesa and Baba AK, two elders in the Atlanta community, and sometimes I think, like, so going into movement space, the question is, why are you here, right? You probably shouldn't have joined the movement for an emotional reason. it's probably not a good idea, right? That's one. But two, it's like, is it really a contradiction as an organizer to know that you got to meet the people where they at and you can't get out ahead of the people, right? So even if I'm a vegan, me giving them a turkey ain't got nothing to do with it. It's not a contradiction, because the contradiction is to serve the people. If that's what they want, then you serve the people. Do you have a relationship with them or not? And if you do, then you could serve the people. If you don't have a relationship with them, what the fuck you gonna do other than, I guess, find all the contradictions as opposed to serving the people? So I think that's what I think about there. And I think this is why it's probably so interesting, because like there's just so many ways to have this conversation. There's so many parts of it to focus on, but it probably would take emotional labor to like work.
I mean, but I don't think, and that's the thing, is that I don't think, like, I think people get it confused where they just think it's the labor of showing emotions or whatever. But to me, like I said, it's the labor of trying to cover and conceal. And I do think in organizing spaces, I mean, we obviously want to be respectful to people, but you shouldn't feel like you have to cover that. Like even if you felt like, hey, this is a contradiction, you know, well, turkey and I'm vegan and turkey and I don't like Thanksgiving, that should be the space where you're able to talk to your comrades about, hey, like what, and then maybe you might find out some more about like dialectical materialism and meeting people where they're at. Like that is the work right there. The emotional labor is, I'm just gonna do this, not ask any questions and smile and say it's okay, even though I go home and I'm like, I don't understand why we're doing or what, you know, that's the emotional labor. You know, I feel like I said, it feels like obviously everybody was on one accord and knew why we were doing the thing. But like I said, we could joke amongst each other of like, you know, turkey or how we feel about things. But like I said, to me, like I said, that's honest. It would be if we were all just like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're getting stuff done and we're not taking the time to like be honest about, you know, how we feel. And so I think to me that I think we could apply a lot of that to other things and other topics when it comes to our work. Because like I said, the labor, like having emotions, you're gonna have emotions about everything, but the actual emotional labor is the work of like concealing those things, because that's what hurts people and makes people have the pain in their chest and all this and feel like, you know, they're stressed out and, you know, but I feel like when you're honest, like, hey, like I feel like, you know, this, you know, yeah, like, can we be honest about this? And I feel like even amongst, like, they were giving other examples in the article where they're talking about like, oh, you're a feminist, but you may like me, like how I'm a feminist, but yeah, the contradiction of that is sometimes I do like when a guy pays for stuff. It feels good. Or I do like, you know, I do like when guys hold open the door. Like my dad always did stuff like that. So it feels, you know, and I understand there's a contradiction there, but I think the emotional labor is me being like, feeling like, oh, now I have to like, you know, tell my dad, or, you know, that he can't hold open the door for me because I'm a feminist. Or that's when it becomes like, you get what I'm saying? Like you're trying to just avoid the contradictions. And I think it's the same thing with how socialists feel like they have to boycott every single thing in order to be an adamant socialist. It's like, it's not understanding or accepting the actual contradictions of living in a capitalist society. And now you have the labor of, I have to find every substitute to everything I want to boycott. I can't shop 5 minutes away from me because I'm supposed to be boycotting that store. I can't do this on my phone because I'm supposed to be boycotting that app. And that becomes the emotional labor of like trying to conceal instead of just being honest about your contradictions and the contradictions of the system.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful, because it's like, if that is the case, right? If you're able to like sit with and deal with the contradiction and explore the contradictions, then you might come to find out that they're not even contradictions. As you said earlier, you just misunderstand it, right? So, for instance, you and your pop walking, he holding doors for you. Somebody can be like, oh, she's benefiting from patriarchy, but reality is you and your pop had a conversation and he found out that's what you like. That's what makes you feel safe. That's what y'all name the experience that you're having right there. So it looks like what, but it's something that she chose because that's what she liked. And then the next person might not like it. So again, until you actually have, as you said, the dialectical experience, then, you know, I mean, I think anything could look like something from the start. And again, this makes me think about I've been journaling these last 2 years more heavily than I probably have been in a while. And I was talking to a young guy the other day, was saying how we always struggle and fight against who's the better white guy between Noam Chomsky and Michael Parenti. And I always be like, I rock with Michael Parenti. I like Noam Chomsky's daughter. But one thing Michael Parenti said in Manufacturing Consent said, it was like, there's this big ass gap between what the U.S. is doing in other countries and what the American people believe the U.S. is doing in other countries. And so it's like, we're in this, like, I guess this constant state of like, even when you are studying all these other things, like you still can be like far out of reality, because you can study so much, you can study yourself into the clouds and not be able how to apply it to actually relationships and real regular shit. So yeah, I'm just thinking about this word and just how it's used, this whole topic, and then just how people understand it. And like back to Lorik's spot, and we all say this, but like what it would be to like sit in the room and all of us to make sure we got the same definition before we keep going fast forward, right? It's like we just throw in a word. Like, do we all know how that word means? Like, how do we all feel about the word? Do we like? So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Salah's 33 comment. Yeah, I understand that doesn't make me not a feminist. I think it's one of those things where society or people that are against feminism will weaponize those things against you. Like, I know it doesn't make me not a feminist because I don't have this belief that like, oh, if men don't pay for every single thing, then they're not real men, or they aren't any good, or they're low. That would be anti-feminist or whatever. But because of how it's weaponized against me, and that's when you're letting people that are opposite of what you actually stand for control how you move in the world. And because I had a guy that forced a kiss on me earlier this year, and the first thing he said to me when I called him out for it or whatever was, well, you're supposed to be this feminist and I paid for your meal and stuff like that. So it's stuff like that makes that sometimes people can have this kind of response where they feel like they have to do everything a particular way because of people that are on the other side of it, where it's like that person doesn't even understand feminism to begin with. For him to say something like that to me is like, you don't understand feminism to begin with. But it's the same thing where like we'll have family members that'll be like, aren't you supposed to be capitalist? Why are you going shopping? Or didn't you just do that? Or and it's just like stuff like, it's like you don't understand socialism, you don't understand capitalism, but we'll then dictate ourselves, which, like I said, once again becomes emotional labor to be like, well, I'm supposed to be this, or I have to overcompensate and do this and make sure I don't have any guy pay for my meals, because then he's going to turn around and say I'm not a real feminist when he sexually assaults me. So it's just kind of, it's like, I think that's kind of where the thinking comes from in the end.
Yeah. So again, I want to offer, for the last few minutes that, we'll be on tonight, if anybody want to come in and kind of give us some thoughts or response to this, we could drop the link again and you can come in. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure I offer that invite. But so again, it started out sounding like, well, I guess it was trying to get to the bottom of it. It was like it's around labor and labor struggle issues and job security, right? And then it moved into these spaces and means something else. And so in the article, the author's kind of starting with that and then coming up with this. And I'm curious, maybe you might even have to reiterate a point, like you said this, but while it can be difficult to challenge the desire or need to do emotional labor to align our emotions with whatever social movements or politics we are engaged in, doing so may ultimately allow for movements to be more inclusive. So even as you, I think, talk about inclusion, or this is talking about inclusion, would you say like, and this can be the online or this can be actual in organized, but would you say that the spaces that we claim to have is inclusive?
Inclusive.
Like the left, the black left, the online or in the streets?
I guess I would have to look at how people define inclusive. Yeah, I would have to look at that because I mean, I think to me, I mean, yeah, I think like when it comes to inclusive or bringing people in, I think yeah, you have to be willing to. Oh, thank you. Yes, y'all are so sweet. Thank you. And that guy, he was calling himself a feminist too, which was like, what? I'm so confused. But
Feminat.
Feminat, exactly. I'm just like, Lord. But I mean, I think we're inclusive to a degree where like we're trying to meet people where they're at and work with them. And to me, that seems inclusive. I mean, I don't know about like, you know, when we say inclusive, I'm thinking everybody. And I mean, it's like some things I do think, yeah, we shouldn't tolerate, but I think like I said, when you're honest about those contradictions, I think you grow more of a sphere of like you're able to understand nuance and understand, and I think that's to me what makes it more inclusive, because I feel like it's one thing if you come in like, yeah, F these B words, y'all need to be bowing down to me or whatever. But I think because we get so quick on emotional labor and stuff like that, it's like we look at the same person that's like, F these B words, bow down to me, is the same guy that's like, hey, I don't understand how this movie or this article is sexist. Can you like explain that to me? We cast everybody in that same box, and I think
everybody get headshots.
Everybody gets that. But I think when you understand, I feel like what emotional labor really is, I think you're able to be more inclusive to like people that can actually grow, like, you know.
That's interesting. Anything else stuck out to you in the article, or any thoughts or points that you feel like we should make? Because at one point, again, folks will say like, ooh, I'm not going to do this emotional labor because you got to do your own work. But really, it's kind of like they're saying that this is common knowledge, basic knowledge. This is basic 101. You should know this. And yeah, I'm just curious if you, I know you just said something about inclusive, but I'm curious if you see that, I don't know the word, it's not ego or bias or like rush assumption that everybody know everything. See that to be a contradiction in itself, to be in a space like we're supposed to be in.
I think the contradiction is like I said, is not, because you come in a movement to work, like you want to do. That's why we call it the work, the movement. Like it's not a sleep or whatever, a nap. So you come in the movement to work. I think, like I said, the emotional labor comes with dishonesty. Like, and so to me, I think to ask women to do these things and smile and act like it's easy, that's emotional labor. I feel like as long as we're in this space where both parties can understand, like, yeah, you can ask the question and we're not going to write you off and be like, you know, you're dumb or you're, you know, the king of misogyny and I don't want to talk to you. Like, it's the same way of like, we're not going to do that. I think there has to be an understanding to both sides, that are people that want to do the work, where it's like, you have to allow people to be like, this is hurting me. This struggles, or like this question or the fact that I have to answer this makes me feel uncomfortable. It does make me feel like I'm betraying some part of something that I always, and I feel like people should be able to give the space, to have the space to express that, but still do the work. I think that's what it is. It's like, you can say all these things. Like I said, obviously you want respect going both ways, but you can be honest. Like, yeah, that question, or you asking that, it hurts me. It makes me feel like we're several years back than I thought we were, but here's my best shot at it. You know, like, I think you should be able to be honest, I think, or even somewhat hurt or like frustrated. I mean, like I said, but I think people on the other end should be accepting of that frustration that may come as well, as long as they're not being disrespected. I think, like I said, it just comes with the being honest about those things. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of, I don't know. Even me answering this, it makes me feel like, I don't know if I'm feeling very unfeminist, but I understand that you're really trying to understand this. So I'm going to do my best shot at it. as opposed to just being like, no, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
I mean, and I guess I think it's like, because eventually, if they do or don't understand it, you're going to have to still go over there and teach that thing. Because the world that we're trying to change don't even have the thing that you wanted to think. That's why you're in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and then I guess it goes back to like, what exactly is I guess I don't know if it's called a boundary, because I was about to say boundary, but what is the role when you come over here, or what is the item or the topic that you actually don't want to develop in? Like, which one you kind of like, I want to develop in all these things to teach, but this one I ain't gonna be able to let go. This one I ain't gonna. Does that make sense? Like,
I think for me, I can say a topic that I struggle with more, that is harder for me to work around. But like I said, I wouldn't say that I'm unable to develop in. Like, I do think working around misogyny and feminism and all, like, it's harder for me because I've seen so many women and been around so many women who are victims of certain things. So sometimes these conversations, I can be more sensitive. I can be a little bit more reactionary, but I will on top of that say that at this moment in my life, maybe not previously, maybe not even 3 months ago, I am dedicated to struggling around these things with people that want to grow. But but I just understand that I may cry, I may get frustrated. I shouldn't, cuss anybody out, try to fight nobody, but I may get a little, emotionally frustrated. Like, whereas if I'm talking about capitalism or something, I may be able to smile and joke more and ha ha ha. If I'm just talking about something like capitalism, when I talk about gender issues, it gets me emotional sometimes, and I don't feel like I should have to conceal that. And I think that's, like I said, when we come to like emotional labor,
Yeah. Nah, I think that's fair. I guess everybody has that thing that they feel like they don't want to struggle with or shouldn't have to struggle with. So I think everybody will probably have that, and maybe it will just lead right back to the structure. Like, if you don't have a structure to help people acknowledge that, and then also know that they will have to touch some limits to develop, because that's what the space needs for and the time calls for. So I guess it would just go back down to, if there's no structure to do a said thing, then even when you come in a little political backwards or political confused or trying to figure some shit out, like, you will still need an adequate container to develop, or an adequate container to do what you got to do. So interesting. Maybe that's that topic is an ongoing topic. Any other thoughts? I know we're about to get towards the end, and seems that Lorik or Leah is not coming in. Y'all should come in. I would like to hear, or even David, I would like to hear some people's thought around this.
Yeah, we still got a little bit of time if y'all want to hop in.
I know people are in organizing spaces, people are in work, people in, and I'm just curious how people think around that term, because I'm definitely still learning. And then I wonder if all the language ends up being like to be questioned whenever you say we got to develop a culture of care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're gonna smash this one like you were smashing all the rest of them, but like, what does like? Yeah, like I'm just wondering, like, what does that culture of care like really look like, or sound like, or be like? And then are there ways to turn that into a liberal thing?
Yeah, I think a culture of care, like, to me, just really like I said, I think care and honesty and all of that go hand in hand. And I think because we're so used to, like, in the outside world having to, there is no care. There's just, hey, my back hurts, but these are my hours, so I got to do it. I got my heart broken last night. I still got to get up and, you know, hop on the phone and work for these white folks and, you know, harass businesses. That's what I do for others. But you know, it's like, I think, you know, a culture of care, like I said, is the opposite of that, but it's not a thing of we shouldn't still be getting things done. I think a culture of care, you should be able to address when the care is not there, or have open spaces to struggle around emotions. Because I guess, you know, in the everyday world in capitalism, it's we don't have time for your emotions. Let's just get the work done. But I think a culture of care is developing a culture where there is time for emotions, but there's also the work where it's like, we don't just be like, okay, we're not going to do anything today, tomorrow, next day, because we just want to talk about feelings all day. But like, okay, this is the time we're talking about feelings, we're being honest. And from here, we're going to figure out how to now move into this work, as opposed to, as long as the work's getting done, then I don't really care about feelings. Because I think, yeah, that's opposite of a culture of care. And that's how you avoid things getting addressed. But yeah.
Shout out to our brother Lorik. So that's interesting, because what you said, and Lorik, I want both of y'all to respond to this. What you said sounds like, you know, everybody read that Asada quote, like the new revolution, like how the revolution got to look now, and this type, and it's different than the old one, right? Because I wonder if what you just said is in a line with what Sada wrote and what people read constantly, and then what. Again, like, well, what would that look like in operation in the communities, like, or in these organizations, if we're really trying to not sanctions, but brings Asada's word to life? And I'm gonna let y'all. I'm gonna step back while y'all get y'all words on.
What's up, yo?
He really stepped back.
He really did. No, because I already know that was.
I thought he was going to turn his mic off.
He said he knew that bathroom break, remember? That's how I knew.
He's really go. He's like, that bathroom break is happening. But what's up, John?
Man. What's up? I love how you've been breaking down definitions. Y'all know I love definitions. So I think you contextualize emotional labor really well. I love how y'all jump back and forth between the way it's kind of colloquially used and then how it originates actually in class struggle and the face that women have to make every single day when they're at Starbucks getting sexually harassed by their coworker and somebody's mad about their matcha and shit. Like, so I really appreciated how you took that and then put it in a movement context. So y'all did an excellent job outlining it. Yeah, I didn't really have much to add. I missed maybe the Asada piece that Geechee and y'all were just talking about.
I'm trying to figure out too exactly what he's referring to. I don't know if he's talking about the Revolution is Love poem or if he's talking about another piece that she wrote that's in her book somewhere, maybe further down. But I think, but overall, I mean, I know her whole thing is like, recreating everything and like having a grounding of love. And so I feel like that, but that's, obviously because that's anti what imperialism and capitalism, teach us. It's just, everything. Oh, you still got to work. You still got to, life isn't fair. You just keep, but it's like, I think the revolution is like, well, how do we make it fair? Like, so it's just like, even in organized, like, how do we make this fair? We're like, where we are respecting each other, but, like we're teaching each other, but we're able to be honest about, because I mean, even if you look at it simple, like as far as like somebody that is a teacher in the regular world, it's like they have to conceal the fact that like they're low salary, low everything. And it's like, I got to get up, I got to be nice to the kids, I got to do all this stuff, as a teacher. But I feel like in an organized space, I think there should be the space where it's like, yeah, like this is actually exhausting, like, but I'm still doing it, but, and so I think having those like check-ins, having those like honesty circles, having those, I think incorporating, like I said, just a time and place to like simply focus on, emotions. Cause I mean, like I said, emotional labor isn't like, hey, I don't want to be emotional. It's like the emotion of having to conceal your emotions. So I think we need to have a space where like emotions can be shared, but still with respect and honesty, where we're not name calling and belittling a person, but like, this is how I feel, and this is hard for me, so I mean, but I think that looks like I said, just having those moments, the top of meetings, end of meetings, of like, this is just how I mean, and we do that a lot, but I think it's just more of that, we do check-ins a lot of times before we're saying, how is everybody feeling? But like I said, but even with those, we know where it's like, we're in a time limit, we know, but sometimes maybe we could just have a meeting that just generally talks about feelings. I don't know, I'm making stuff up. It's like, but I'm just saying, like, if we we put aside an hour for this and an hour for social media, an hour for that, we could put aside, okay, an hour Monday, just everybody talk about their feelings and gets to say what's said. So I don't know. Like, I'm new to this, so I'm just.
Well, it sounds like you need to go to some Black Men Build Women circles. So I'm just going shameless plug, because that's exactly what we do on Mondays. And I mean, to me, it sounds like two things. Like, revolution is a place we should go to be restored, which makes a lot of sense. And then revolution is a place we go to be transformed. So to your point, Cherie, like, if you are in a workplace, you expect a certain level of capitalist exploitation if you're conscious. A big thing, I think, is a lot of people aren't conscious, and so they're slaving away at their workplace, thinking that one day things are going to change, and that they can just work hard enough, climb the corporate ladder, that kind of thing. And so they're putting emotional labor into, what Geechee said, like a broken container or an empty container. But I think when you put emotional labor into movement, it is supposed to have the results you're describing, Cherie. But I think when it doesn't, that's the burnout, that's the resentment. That's when emotional labor actually isn't doing anything. Because I think emotional labor is going to have to happen regardless, right? Like, it's just something that exists in society to reproduce society. But I think when we put it into a container that's supposed to be transforming society and it's not happening, then people are like, okay, why am I doing all of this? And I think it comes back to something Deruba said once about his issue with the phrase survival pending revolution, which, as I know, something that a lot of people use, kind of explain our dual power structures or survival programs with that kind of thing. But Deruba was saying that we were trying to make it clear that revolution is survival, right? So it's not, I think those two things are very different. So if what you're saying is like we have to do emotional labor, just the whole community, well, that's part of like revolutionizing our culture, revolutionizing our society, and things like that. That labor will always happen. But I think if you think of it in stages, survival and then maybe revolution will come, that opens that kind of thinking that you talked about earlier, Cherie, where it's like, oh, well, I know that, there's a lot of sexism in this space, but just for the sake of the movement, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to do all this labor to hold these relationships, and then we'll figure it out someday. So this idea, like, we're surviving, and then the revolution will come. We're going to do this emotional labor, and then eventually we'll solve our patriarchy problem in this organization. And it doesn't work that way, right? So that's how I was parsing through what y'all said. But I love this. So appreciate y'all.
Yeah, nah, thank you for coming on. Whenever Cherie was and I don't know if maybe y'all was throwing the alley hoop, but whenever she was saying that, I was like, that sounds like Black Man Bill. And that sounds like the Black Men Build Women circle.
Yeah.
Like
I've been needing to go.
I was like, damn, like y'all throwing alleys. I was going for a second. Y'all throwing alleys and stuff.
Y'all invited me a while ago to one of those. I'm like, I need to go because I even like a little sister circle or something like that in a minute. I used to, when I was in Brooklyn, I used to do all the goddess circles and sister circles. We just cry and put our crystals in the middle and be like, we're rejuvenated.
Yeah, no, but listen, I done plug Baba Okesa twice already, and but I think because last night we had like a really impactful conversation, if it was last night or whatever day it was, yesterday, and I think that's gonna, he was saying, he was like, that's why what their work they're trying to do is called the warrior healer builder, because I mean, like, most niggas in war mode and they don't even fight with the right tools and they burn out, right? Most niggas say, fuck, we ain't gotta learn that. We just go build. And when you don't have the mineral rights, like in Kentucky, your shit sank because you don't own the mineral rights. And then the healer, Like I ain't into that woo-woo shit, none of that, and got that I ain't, but you all three of them shit you need, right? And so if the spaces ain't and probably even more, I'm pretty sure we left something out, but in spaces that we in, if that's not like in concrete policies and concrete structure to foster that, then we just gonna be crashing and burning consistently for another 150 years.
Yep. I think people are good at one or two, maybe, but getting all three, tends to be the struggle. So to your point, Cherie, yeah, like we definitely need those spaces in places that are also politicized, because the opposite happens where you'll have these emotional healing spaces, for lack of a better word, kumbaya spaces, essentially. And there's no political outlook, and it's just like, man, this is good vibes. I really appreciate it. Oh, I'm glad. Let's do this again next week. And it's a cycle that doesn't get you anywhere. So, yeah, it's a balance. Definitely like that approach, Geechee.
It's fun to stay at the YMCA. That's what they was doing.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be in a bunch of those. It was just like emotional. Talk about it, never doing anything. Like, so yeah. So I'm definitely not saying that part either. Definitely would save me a lot of time too. I'm just like thinking back at those circles where it's just like, oh man, we just had a big cry fest, and we put our crystals in the sun, we have our yoni eggs, and then it's just like everybody back to their individualism.
I was gonna say, because that also that ends up how it is, and then all sorts of, because you don't have the PE skills, you don't have the tradition to pull back on. That's how all that shit, as you just said, I already knew you talking about the yoni eggs and the crying and the emotions. For a lot of men, it's like the meditation stuff, really like, oh, I'm just so grateful, I'm centered on fatherhood and all that. But you haven't unpacked what that means. You haven't unpacked what is that. You want to be a better father, but what's your benchmark for that, right? It sounds all over the place. So yeah.
So yeah, it's that balance. I think it's having that time, but then after that time, still taking note of like, how do we transform it into action and, policy as well afterwards, because other than that, it's just like good vibes. And like I said, everybody go back to I was back to my crystals, sticking crystals up my cooch, having all sorts like it's just like, I wish somebody okay, all I need to do is my Kegels and I'll be good.
But I appreciate the first example you laid out, Cherie, and I would just ask.
Thank you.
See what you done did?
You're lost. I know.
You done got us. You done got us snip, man. Y'all got to remember that woman is a retiring comedian. So she gonna slip. She gonna slip some of them things in there now. she gonna get. God damn.
Oh, sorry. I think we used to have a joke about that for real back in the day.
I already know.
You know the joke. He know the joke. I won't tell the joke here. I'll keep Black Liberation Media pure. It's fine. But
man.
But yeah.
Dang, Lord can't coming back. Look like he got booted. He should just do the jade crystals. Yeah. No, so listen, man. This was a dope show. Thank you for giving us that. Actually, I don't know. I think this can build off of a few things. We can have a few more conversations about it. Oh, you want to pull up, Lord? I was going to say your example of using the turkey drive to unpack things was great. These things were, yeah, bro. Yeah, no, but Cherie, dope show. What you taking away? What you feeling? What you want to finish off?
Yeah, I definitely want to struggle more around this and just this topic, this word, how it's defined, how, like I said, the radicalism of it and the way it could be used liberally, systems of care, all of that. And then like I said, some of the people in our org went to meditation center on Sunday. So it's just like, well, how do we also thinking like, how do you use that, but not make it liberalized, but like use something like that in radical space. So I think it's, similar with art. It's just like, it can be anything you want it to be, but you have to be intentional about, why you're doing a thing and what the actual outcome is that you're looking for. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, I don't got nothing after that. I think you laid it out. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Again, appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all can keep the conversations going in the chat if you want, in the comments. Cherie normally be in there cursing people out, so come in there, come correctly. Y'all gonna have to do emotional labor if y'all come in. Y'all coming there with the wrong juice now. I'm just telling y'all. If you want to keep the conversation going, please do. But if you don't, who cares? We'll see y'all next week again. All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Aprendimos a quererte desde la histórica altura donde el sol de tu bravura le puso cerco a la muerte. Aquí